Salt has been one of the most controversial ingredients in nutrition for decades. On one hand, public health campaigns have long warned about the dangers of high sodium intake, linking excess salt to hypertension, heart disease, and stroke. On the other hand, emerging research suggests that the relationship between sodium and health is more nuanced than previously portrayed, sparking debate over how much salt is truly too much for the average person. For most people, the goal isn't to eliminate salt completely, which is neither realistic nor desirable, but to understand where sodium comes from, how to manage intake intelligently, and how to balance flavor, health, and practicality in everyday cooking. The good news is that with a little knowledge and awareness, it's possible to enjoy flavorful food without overdoing sodium and to reap the health benefits of moderation without fear or restriction. One of the key challenges in navigating sodium guidelines is that much of the confusion stems from differences in source. Most people assume that adding salt at the table or during cooking accounts for the majority of sodium in their diet. In reality, processed, packaged, and restaurant foods contribute the lion's share, often 70 to 75% of total sodium intake. Items such as deli meats, frozen meals, canned soups, snack foods, condiments, and breads can contain surprisingly high amounts of salt, far more than a home-cooked meal seasoned to taste. For example, a single slice of bread may contain 150 to 200 milligrams of sodium, which adds up quickly across multiple servings. A can of soup or frozen entree can contain 800 to 1,200 milligrams in one serving, and many people consume multiple servings without realizing it. In contrast, a pinch of salt added at home provides far less sodium, but can have a dramatic effect on taste and palatability. This distinction underscores why blanket, reduce all salt messages can feel confusing and even discouraging. Not all sodium comes from the same source, and reducing processed foods often has a far bigger impact on overall intake than worrying about the salt shaker. Public health campaigns over the past few decades have consistently aimed for a population-level reduction in sodium, with the general guidelines set around 2,300 milligrams per day for adults, equivalent to roughly 1 teaspoon of salt. For individuals with high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, or other risk factors, recommendations often drop to around 1,500 to 1,800 milligrams per day. While these targets are based on robust evidence linking high sodium intake to increased blood pressure, recent studies suggest the effects are highly individualized. Genetics, baseline blood pressure, kidney function, overall diet quality, and lifestyle factors such as physical activity and potassium intake all influence how sodium affects each person. Some people, known as salt-sensitive, experience significant blood pressure increases with modest sodium intake, whereas others show little change even at higher intakes. Emerging research also highlights the importance of nutrient balance. Diets rich in potassium, magnesium, fiber, and plant-based foods can mitigate the negative effects of sodium, even when intake is moderately above guidelines. Another layer of complexity arises from the subtle ways sodium hides in foods. It is often present in unlikely sources such as breakfast cereals, baked goods, canned vegetables, cheese, pickled foods, soy sauce, and seasoning blends. Reading labels carefully and understanding the preserving numbers is crucial. Dietitians advise paying attention to both absolute values and how much you actually consume in a typical portion. For example, a small packet of crackers may seem low in sodium, but multiple servings at a snack or party can double or triple intake without anyone noticing. Similarly, many frozen or ready-to-eat foods are designed to taste savory and appealing precisely because of added sodium, so reliance on convenience foods can easily push intake above recommended limits. The good news is that managing sodium doesn't require giving up flavor or enjoyment. Cooking at home offers enormous flexibility. Herbs, spices, citrus, garlic, and vinegar can enhance taste without adding sodium, and gradually reducing salt in recipes allows the palate to adjust naturally. Combining home-cooked meals with mindful choices when eating out, for example, requesting lower sodium options, choosing grilled instead of processed proteins, or limiting sauces, can dramatically reduce total sodium intake while still allowing indulgence. Dietitians often emphasize that this approach is far more sustainable and effective than strict avoidance or obsessive tracking. Over time, people notice they can enjoy subtle flavors and appreciate foods in a new way, which in turn makes it easier to maintain healthy habits. The evolving research also reinforces a positive perspective. Sodium is essential for life. It helps regulate fluid balance, nerve function, and muscle contractions, meaning that the goal is moderation rather than elimination. Being too restrictive can be counterproductive, especially for active individuals who lose sodium through sweat or for people consuming very low sodium processed diets that may also lack other electrolytes. The key takeaway is to aim for balance: moderate salt, plenty of whole foods, adequate hydration, and awareness of hidden sources, rather than adhering to rigid numbers or fearing every pinch of salt. In practical terms, this means that most people benefit more from choosing foods carefully than from obsessing over precise grams of sodium. Whole fruits, vegetables, legumes, unprocessed meats, eggs, and grains generally contain low sodium naturally, making it easier to stay within healthy limits without sacrificing taste. Moderating processed foods, reading labels, seasoning creatively, and being mindful at restaurants are actionable steps that give people agency over their intake. The focus shifts from restriction to strategy, enjoying food, supporting health, and gradually building a palate attuned to natural flavors. Ultimately, the story of salt isn't one of fear or confusion. It's one of balance, awareness, and flexibility. While public health campaigns have emphasized reduction and new research highlights individual differences, the average person can maintain healthy sodium intake by focusing on real foods, cooking at home, and moderating processed and restaurant foods. Salt can still be enjoyed, flavor can remain abundant, and health outcomes can improve, all without obsession. By approaching sodium intelligently, people gain control, not anxiety, and can savor meals while supporting cardiovascular and overall well-being.